All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Mike Wasmer, and I am Chief Operating Officer for CASP, and I appreciate you joining us today. This is part of a series of short webinars as our Meet the CASP Business Affiliates webinars. ABA Building Blocks is a CASP business affiliate, and we welcome Kim today to give us a description of the services that they offer and answer any questions that you may have. So thanks for being with us, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of a busy Friday to spend a few minutes with me and learn about ABA Building Blocks and about the services we provide and about particularly our organizational assessment that we've been conducting with companies all around the country. I know there's a way for you to ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. So with that, just want to spend a minute and tell you a little bit about me and about the company. So my name is Kim Finger, and I am the founder and CEO of ABA Building Blocks. I've had quite a long career in ABA. I started out as a therapist in 1990 and then a supervisor, and did some of my graduate schooling in ABA until I segued into cognitive psychology. And then after I left and was instructing on special education and such, I did an 8-year stint in executive coaching. And I worked for a company called Corporate Coaching International. And I was mentored by a woman whose name is Dr. Lois Frankel. And she basically coined the word executive coach and had, I believe, the first coaching company in the country. And while I was there, I got to do training and development and coaching and things I've brought to ABB, including an organizational assessment. We worked with quite a few Fortune 500 companies: Nestle, Warner Brothers, Disney, ConocoPhillips, Lockheed Martin, Cedars-Sinai Hospital, lots of different industries. But we would come in oftentimes and be asked at the beginning of the work we were doing to do an analysis of the department or of the company as a whole to basically get a pulse on how things were going. And so when I started ABA Building Blocks, and throughout my years in ABA, I realized that there was really nothing like this in our industry that was very structured, that helped owners and executive teams really have an understanding of what the strengths of the company are, what the development or weakness areas are, and what's impeding their ability to grow or achieve their business goals. So that was why we kicked it off. And we've worked with probably a couple dozen companies now and to high success. And in addition to that, just to say, ABA Building Blocks does a wide range of services and products that we provide. We are the only one-stop shop for everything ABA in the country. We do startup consulting, and we help companies that are in the red turn their circumstances around. We work with companies that are growing and expanding. We provide recruiting, financial planning, clinical and operational development, contracting and credentialing, insurance billing, and mergers and acquisitions. So literally, we are a team of folks who all have ABA backgrounds, and our goal is to serve those of you who provide services in ABA and special needs and support you as you grow your businesses. So with that, I'm going to jump into who should consider an org assessment. And trust me, I will talk to you all about the process and the outcomes. But first off, what types of companies should be considering this as something they may want to take value of or take advantage of? Post-acquisition. This is common for us. Two companies merge. You've got roles, responsibilities, processes, procedures, culture. And on this side, you have the whole other set of those. And this may be two companies merging, or it may be one of the big industry leaders adding in another company that they've acquired. But an org assessment is a great way to take a pulse on best practices, efficiencies, redundancies, and also get feedback from staff about how they're feeling about this and what their goals are as they continue to work with you, all with the intention of strengthening your business and making sure that the outcome of this acquisition is something that benefits your clients, your staff, and the business as a whole. Others who should consider it are growing companies. You may be a roof and mortar, brick and mortar building, or you may be a home-based service company, but you're in Illinois and you're growing to another state, or you're growing within your geographical region, but you're setting up additional offices. One of the struggles companies have as they grow is you end up with different offices that are very different companies than the core company that you designed, and that you want to ensure that your quality and your efficiencies and operations are all being adopted and ascribed to by these other organizations that you have, as well as that you want to get, again, the pulse on your staff and how they're feeling. Struggling companies, as I mentioned, we work with folks who are in the red or folks who are struggling in other ways. A common theme these days is turnover. A heck of a time finding RBTs and BCBAs, and then when you do, having excessively high turnover. You can have your ideas around why that turnover may be so high, but nothing speaks more than actually talking to the people who work for your company around why they think turnover is high. Pre-acquisition. The day you decide you want to sell is not the day you should decide to do an assessment of how strong your organization is. It should be at least a year ahead of time, depending upon the size of the company. You want to look at all of the things I've already mentioned, your processes, procedures, your financials, how your team is feeling about what the work they're doing. All of these things impact your valuation. And if you're intending to sell your company, that's a good thing to think about. And as I tell everybody, you know, unless you plan to retire with your company, most people do need an exit strategy. So as you start to think about your long-term plan, this could even be something that you do every other year. I've had companies hire us to do it every 2 years, just to make sure that as they continue to grow, that they're on track. Because your policies and procedures may not work for you when they may work for you well when you're 5 staff and 10 clients, but scalable policies and procedures may not work as well for you when you're 100 staff and 200 clients. So I always tell my startups, be thinking about what is this going to look like when you're much bigger than you are. But sometimes we don't think about those things, and we end up having to assess where we're at and do some, make some changes and revisions. Lastly, any established company who wants to do a temperature check. It is never a bad idea, whether you're a large company or a small company, as long as you're established and you've been providing services, to understand the pulse of your company, what's working, what's not working, and where you might be getting stuck. So what do we look at when we do an org assessment? I'm going to talk to you next about the process, but in terms of what the benefits are, one of our biggest goals is to identify areas of risk. This is section A of the report that we provide you. And what we provide you is section A is identify areas of risk. If it's labor law compliance, if it's labor law compliance, insurance compliance, HIPAA compliance, anything that can potentially get you sued, anything that can potentially harm your business in a significant way is going to be in section A of the report. Next, we all want to be reinforced for the great things we do, so we highlight all of the strengths that have come up. Next is areas of development. So just like people, companies have strengths, they have areas of development or weakness, and we divide these into themes in the report. So for example, communication is poor. I never hear back from anybody within a week of sending an email. We are looking at themes. My old boss, the one who I referenced earlier, said, if 3 people say you're drunk, lie down. And I love that phrase because it's true. And here we're looking at what are multiple people saying that is indicating that it is a theme, it's a pattern, it's a potential problem to be looked at, because it is impacting multiple people and presumably the organization as a whole. Lastly, for each of these areas, we provide our own recommendations as to how to address them. And then we work together with you to develop a strategic plan based on your resources, your timeline, your financial ability to take on some of these projects. And our goal is to at least provide you that and potentially work with you collaboratively to execute the changes that will strengthen your company to ensure that your goals are met. So what does the process look like? It's actually a pretty simple process that does not take very long. In 9 times out of 10, we are started and done within 2 to 3 weeks with respect to this piece of, with everything except for the last bullet. So the first thing we do is we meet with you as the owner or the executive team to learn all about the company, how it was founded, when it was founded, where you are, what services you provide, your growth trajectory, your goals, and for everybody, there's a reason why they're going to pull the trigger and do this. So we want to really understand from your vantage point what you want to get out of this and what you feel like is potentially not working within the organization or struggles that you're having. Then we help you craft an email to your company and let them know what you're doing. And what's really, really important about this process, because some of you may be thinking, hey, I can do this myself. And I'm not saying that you can't. But what I find is this part is key. You're using an outside firm and everything they say is confidential. Everything we report back is in themes, as I mentioned. There's no direct quotes. We don't relay who the people are when we are reporting. So they have a trust that they are not going to be outed as a function of participating in this. And I think you get much more candid feedback as a function of that. So basically, we interview 20% of your employee population, and that's everybody. So if you have one HR manager, we're going to talk to that HR manager. If you have one biller, we're going to talk to the biller. One scheduler, we're going to talk to the scheduler. If you have multiple people in departments, we're going to take from you your recommendations, but ideally we want to talk to 20% of the people within each department. And so, as you can imagine, the biggest bulk of people we're going to talk to are going to be your RVTs and your BCBAs. But your company is a whole, and it's very important that we talk to people who are on the admin side as well, so that we can see a whole picture. Excuse me. Next, we put together that report that I mentioned, and we sit with you and we go over categorically all of our findings with our recommendations, get your thoughts and feedback. And ultimately, again, the goal is to sit back and digest it and then think through what can we do to address some of these points. And that means prioritizing. You're not going to fix everything in a day. And depending upon how many things are on this list, we may need to drill down into which are the ones that are most impactful to the organization. Like I mentioned, those red light risk areas versus other things that people would like to have. And so what we want to do is come up with a framework for rolling out different changes, revisions, new policies, procedures, operational revisions, workflows, additions to the team, so on and so forth, that allow you to make the necessary revisions to strengthen the company. My definite recommendation is to take it slow on this. People have agreed to participate, so they're obviously eager to see some change. So it's always nice to look at the report from the angle of what is the low-hanging fruit? What can I quickly do that's low cost, low energy, that shows people we're paying attention to the report, we heard them, and we're making some changes. Then from there, probably going to be the bigger mountains or pebbles, rocks, or boulders that you need to address. And those are going to take potentially teams of people and resources, and may have a financial commitment on your end to address them. And so I say, don't pull the trigger too fast. I know for myself, I can definitely say that back earlier on in my career, there were times where I thought me and somebody else and a couple other people had devised something that would work perfectly to roll it out and have a hand after hand after hand asking questions that were very legitimate. So I take a very different approach now. Once we come up with it and we lay it all out and we think through and put it in writing and we pilot it and we get feedback and then we tweak it again, because you want the egg fully baked by the time you roll it out. The worst thing to do is to roll something back out and then have to rewind it and start over, because not only is it a lot of time wasted, but the staff oftentimes look at it as a frenetic organization or chaotic. And so, you want to be thoughtful about how you do these things. And then celebrate your successes as each thing is accomplished. Again, the team hasn't seen the report, but they do know they gave feedback. So there's no reason not to, in a monthly meeting, over an email, put out to the team what you've done and give yourself kudos and give them kudos and celebrate those wins. Here I've got a few examples to share with you of actual snippets of org assessments we've conducted in the past. They're kind of 3 different types of examples just to give you a feel. So this is an acquisition. 2 companies merged. There are now 2 organizations in 2 different states. And the feedback was that one of the states was operating as a well-oiled machine, the other one not so much so. And as you can see in the last bullet, people in this particular state were feeling like the staff were disorganized, unmanaged, chaotic, and unstructured. So what's our goal? Our goal in looking at this was to understand what are the best practices that the state that was the well-oiled machine is engaging in, who's in those roles, what are those roles, and then we're looking at how can we duplicate or replicate those best practices in the other state so that, one, there's cohesion and it's not 2 different companies with the same name, but also so that there is a sense of a team, a 2-state team, everybody on the same page with the same vision, mission, and values, the same operational infrastructure, and the same clinical infrastructure. This one's poignant because cash flow obviously is important to all of us, and how you bill and who bills for you and what your billing policies, procedures, and workflows look like are all critical to keeping the lights on and paying your staff. So this particular company's feedback from the billing department was that there was a lot of inefficiency. Same work being done by lots of different people, things that could be streamlined. And I guess what I want to point out if you're reading this is how eloquently people were able to communicate. They know in their role what's working and what's not. They're able to give their perspective, but frankly, sometimes they're just not asked to give it. So in this case, we got a lot of good fodder here, and they weren't utilizing their practice management system as well as they could and should be. So obviously the recommendation was to further analyze, look at whose roles and responsibilities within the billing department so that we could further define those roles, make sure that the division of labor made sense, made sure to capitalize on efficiency, and obviously make sure that the system that they're paying for is being utilized to its fullest degree. The last one is not a common one, thankfully, but I thought it was one to make an example of because this was a company that brought us in, and the primary problems in the company all were with basically ownership and the executive team. There was no sense of vision, mission, values shared. The owner's role was very unclear, came in, came out, disruption when she came in, kind of ghosting when she wasn't there. The other people didn't feel like they really understood their role or were respected for what they were bringing to the table. Lots of time spent wasted on minutia. And so this was one of the more challenging engagements, because when things don't work at the very top of the pyramid, I think we all know all of that dysfunction or time wasting trickles down throughout the whole organization. So this was a pretty big engagement, and just wanted to show that as yet another example. So I think that's my last slide. So again, I want to thank you for being here and hearing me talk about org assessments, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Kim. I don't see any in the Q&A box, but we'll give it a couple minutes.
And I'll just mention while you're thinking, if you have any questions, come back to our website soon. And if you don't currently get our newsletter, drop me off an email. It's Kim@ABA Building Blocks, or you can send it to info. We've got a whole new video series coming up where we are doing Kim on the Couch, Manic Mondays, and Wind Down Wednesdays. Obviously, I'm Kim, and I'll be doing the Couch series. And then our CCO will be doing Manic Mondays, and our COO Wind Down Wednesdays. The idea behind this is going to be short video series, giving people informative information during the week on how to manage different situations, but in a light and fun way. So we look forward to launching that. And if you're one of the folks who gets our newsletter, we'll get you an announcement, and it'll be on our website as soon as it's ready to go as well. Again, thank you, and I wish you all a great weekend.